Okay, so it's kind of the biggest story in the NFL right now is what happened with the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, they were seemingly just blowing team out after team out. They get to the playoffs and they can't get anything going, especially on offense. Now, I made a video talking about this game, previewing it, and I said that there were certain ways that the Titans actually might be well suited to try to stop this Ravens offense, but I definitely never saw this coming. I thought there was a chance that they could slow them down here and there. I definitely didn't think that they would be able to completely shut them down, and let's just get into how they were able to do it. So, like on this play, for example, they're going to fake a run with Mark Ingram right up the middle, and then what they're actually going to do is they're going to have their right guard and right tackle both block those two Tennessee players right there. So they're kind of moving to the left to make their blocks, meaning that this is actually going to be a quarterback run to the right side of the screen, but there are currently two Tennessee players who are unblocked in that direction. However, they have plans for both of those guys. The first guy, they're simply just going to, pull a tight end around, so he'll block him. Nothing too fancy there. And then for the edge rusher, this is usually where the play is made or lost, is if the edge rusher crashes in to make sure that he's going to make a tackle on the halfback, well then Lamar Jackson can run around to the outside and just get around him. That's typically what happens. And as you see, that is exactly what he is going to do. He crashes in, is trying to make a play on the running back right here, but because of this, now Lamar can run to the outside. And more often than not, when this happens, this means that Lamar can easily run to the outside, pick up some yards. This is what he's been doing all season long. However, take a look at what's going on right there with the tight end trying to make a block on a linebacker. And notice how I said trying to make a block on a linebacker, because look at how good of a job Rashaan Evans is going to do of slipping that block and getting over to make a tackle. I mean, that's just a great job there by Evans. The play still went for 4 yards. It wasn't a bad play whatsoever, but that's what Tennessee was able to do, and that's how they were able to stop Baltimore, was the fact that they were able to basically just evade blocks. That's what they were able to do. Baltimore was a team that was a great blocking team all season long, except for this game. This was the one time that they really got beat, and they got beat pretty badly, actually. And really, I mean, as a football team, it's so difficult to, when something has been a strength for you all season long, when that becomes not just not a strength, but an actual weakness, it's really hard to know what you're supposed to do. And, this play is actually, I think, a great example of just how difficult of a time they had doing what they had an easy time of doing all season long. So again, Lamar is going to fake a handoff as though it's going to be a halfback run up the middle, and then he's going to run out to the bottom half of the screen, and also the fullback in the game is going to run out to lead block for him. Typically what you would expect is that those two Tennessee Titans players are the ones who are getting unblocked here, and those are the ones who could potentially run over and try to make a play on Lamar. That's what you would expect. But again, Lamar is able to get around that Tennessee player right there. I mean, he's kind of close, but Lamar is just too fast. You're not going to be able to make this play. So oftentimes in this situation, this is where the Ravens would thrive. This is what I think a lot of people look at when they talk about the RPO, as if you can just make these decisions quickly, then you can beat the Ravens. But the reality is, it's so difficult to make these decisions quickly enough and to be able to outrun Lamar Jackson. So the Titans, they didn't really worry about that too much. They worried about other things. And one other thing is a defensive back going up against a receiver right there. So oftentimes, Baltimore's players would be able to make these types of blocks. But watch how he stays so far to the outside that he's easily able to get around that receiver, and now he's in position to try to make a tackle on Lamar. He's able to run over, and instead of that play probably going for a first down, he's able to run in, make that tackle, and that's how they were able to stop the Ravens. Really, that was it. It wasn't them outsmarting the Ravens. It wasn't them doing anything crazy. It was them just finding ways to evade blocks. And that is clearly what they put their focus on this last week, was let's see if we can get around blocks. Let's use our speed, try to get around some of these bigger guys. And, I mean, listen, Baltimore's a fast team, but they were like, hey, let's see if we can outrun them in certain areas. We won't be able to outrun Lamar, so let's try to outrun tight ends and outrun offensive linemen. We can do that, so let's try to do that. Somehow people are talking about Lamar Jackson and saying that Lamar Jackson is now a playoff choker. I mean, what is he supposed to do on that play? Typically throughout the course of a season, someone would make that block. Lamar actually did his part. Lamar's part is to get around the edge rusher. He did his part, just that the rest of his team let him down on a lot of these plays. That was honestly my biggest takeaway when I was watching the tape, because sometimes you can't really totally see what's going on just watching the game live. And when I was watching the All-22 for this game, without a doubt, my biggest takeaway was that Lamar played fine. Lamar actually played pretty well. Lamar played as well as he's played all season long, except for a few misplays. But for the most part, he played pretty well. He definitely wasn't the problem. But there were problems, and also Tennessee did a great job. I mean, like, watch. I mean, they just knew what to do in each situation. Like on this play, there's going to be two double teams, and then eventually the center and then the right guard are both going to move out to block linebackers, and then they're simply just going to send their halfback up the middle. This is a 3rd down and 2, so you're just trying to gain 2 yards here. You don't need a ton of yards. You don't need to get too creative. Just pound the rock, see if you can get a couple yards. This is something that they seemingly would just sleepwalk their way into 5 yards almost every time they did it over the course of the regular season. But look at how quick of a break both of those two linebackers are going to make rushing in here. They both break in very quickly, so that both the center and the right guard are they're going to have a much more difficult time getting the blocks, and they're not going to be able to get as far up to make those blocks, meaning that now they actually have a chance to make this tackle and not allow the 1st down to happen. And the reason they can do this is basically because they have a defensive back right over there who they trust that if Lamar Jackson runs up in that direction, he can run out and make the tackle. Basically, they are just trusting their teammate here, and for a good reason, because it allows them to run in, break through the hole, and now there's nowhere for Gus Edwards to go. They only gained 1 yard when they needed 2. They would actually go for it on 4th down. I'm going to talk about that play, but first I'm going to talk about their other 4th down play because I think this is kind of going off of what I'm saying even more so. What's going to happen on this play is that there is once again going to be 2 double teams right over there, and then they're also going to have their fullback and their halfback run out to the left side of the screen. So the idea is basically that with doing that, potentially some of those linebackers could kind of get out of position. They could run to the left. But again, they're going to do a great job here of trusting their guys and not getting fooled by that, basically saying if it is a run in that direction, we just have to trust that our players on that side of the field can make the play. But again, it's one thing to just trust your other guys to make the play, but it's another thing to actually be able to make the play yourself. However, if you look at Daquan Jones, he's doing a great job on this double team of just not getting moved. And this is something that, again, Baltimore was doing consistently all season, was being able to move these interior linemen, especially when they're not exactly sure what the play is going to be. But Tennessee kind of had the mindset of we're just going to assume the play every time is going to be they're going to run it to me essentially, and so that's what he's doing, where he's not allowing that double team to get completely clean, which is going to allow that linebacker to now have a gap where he can run up. And this is the other thing Tennessee did really well was they played aggressive. They tried to make plays. They didn't try to just not allow big plays to happen against them. When you say you can't play not to lose, you have to play to win. Well, Tennessee played to win. They tried to make plays, and that's what they're going to do in this play. David Long runs up. He makes the tackle, is able to stop Lamar Jackson short of the 1st down, and that's how they were able to get a crucial 4th down stop. That was one of 2 4th-and-1 or less stops that they were able to get. The other was this one, and I think this one actually is just a great example of why the game as a whole just didn't work out. Because for Baltimore, they started getting a little bit too creative on certain situations. Like on this one, it's 4th down and inches. And if you look at what's going on right here, so there's going to be all one-on-one matchups with the exception of their center and left guard with a double team. And if you look at the 2 interior linemen that are furthermost in, so the one who's going to be double teamed and also the one who's going up against the right guard, they are both in a 2-point stance here, meaning they have both of their hands on the ground. So essentially what they're doing here is they're trying to get as low as possible, trying to not allow Lamar Jackson to sort of just run that quarterback sneak. So if you're Lamar Jackson, one option you could do right here, once you see this, is you could just audible, have it be that it's going to be a halfback dive. You give it to Gus Edwards, and Gus Edwards just holds onto the ball with 2 hands and kind of jumps over. Again, you have to be careful because it's not a goal line situation, but that is something you could do. Or you could just keep it yourself and make sure that you stay tall, you stay big, and then even if you don't quite get it right on the initial push, you have Gus Edwards who can run over and try to sort of push you over. But Baltimore is going to kind of press their luck here. They're assuming that player right there, the linebacker in the middle of the field, he's just going to rush in and try to close up that gap as soon as possible. So for Lamar, instead he's going to actually take the ball himself and run out like that. That's the way this play is designed. They're kind of just banking on the fact that they can make blocks further to the right side of the screen instead of just being able to run a quarterback sneak. The linebacker who's lined up with Lamar right now is Wesley Woodyard, and look at how good of a job he's going to do of staying with Lamar. Woodyard stays with him, and at this point for Lamar, there is definitely no clean way to get this 1st down, but at the same time, I kind of have to be honest here. I think the move is still try to get there as quick as possible, put your shoulder down, and just see if you can fall forward to get the 1st down. It's 4th and inches. You don't need much. You're going to have to take the contact here. I know typically you want to avoid the contact, but in this situation, you got to take the contact. It's 4th down and inches. You're trying to win a playoff game here. it's worth the hit basically. But Lamar instead cuts back. No chance of that working. Tennessee is able to wrap him up, and he doesn't get the first down. And I mean, plays like that. That's how they were able to be effective. Tennessee played smart football, and at times Baltimore outsmarted themselves because they said, "Hey, what we're doing isn't working." But I think that it still could have worked. I think they had to. I think they kind of went away from their game plan too early on. They tried to make adjustments when they didn't really need to make adjustments. They just needed to start playing their plays better. They just needed to start blocking better. They needed to execute better. I kind of think about Super Bowl 51 when the New England Patriots were able to come back against the Falcons. If you watch that game, and I've even done a 50 long minute deep dive about that game, if you watch that one thing you will notice is that they pretty much didn't change their game plan at all. New England didn't. They kind of just said, you know what? This game plan is working. We're not executing it right, but it can work, so let's just stick with this game plan and hope that we finally execute it right later on in this game. I kind of think that's what Baltimore probably should have done. At least, I mean, you don't have to completely only do one type of play, but they went away from that game plan too early on, and it really did cost them. I think Tennessee deserves a lot of credit from forcing them away from that game plan, and also, I do have to say, stop blaming Lamar. Lamar played fine. This wasn't his fault. Don't blame Lamar because Lamar actually played pretty well. I mean, what's he supposed to do? He's not the one calling these plays. He's actually executing it pretty well. I mean, that last play I showed, he made some, he probably should have just ran forward. I'm not saying he was perfect by any means. He had, not his, I wouldn't say this was his worst game. He had one of his worst games of the season, but it's not like he was a disaster either. I mean, he had 500 total yards. He definitely did some things very well, but just as a whole, the Titans just, they played a better game. If I'm a Baltimore Ravens fan, well, first things first, I would be devastated, but also, I'm not blaming Lamar as much as I'm blaming his supporting cast. It was a lot of other guys who really kind of let him down in this game. At least, that's my opinion. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and as always, thanks for watching.